Welcome to VMware's Telco Bits and Bytes Live, a series of short conversations where we discuss relevant industry topics for our service provider community. In this session, we will be discussing private mobile networks, a powerful new connectivity option to unleash transformative new applications at the edge. Few emerging technologies look poised to make as big a splash as private mobile networks this year, but what does an effective solution look like? And how can you take advantage of this new technology? Let's take a closer look. And to do that, I'd like to welcome two subject matter experts. David Tokunaga, Boingo Wireless Vice President of Product and Business Development, and Ram Kumar Venketaramani, Senior Director of Solutions for the Service Provider and Edge Business. Thank you both for joining me. Today, I'm your host, David Lawrence, Senior Product Marketing Manager in VMware's Service Provider and Edge business. So I'd like to start today's conversation with David, give you a chance to introduce Boingo Wireless with our audience and kind of the role that you're playing in private mobile networks. David?
Hey guys, good morning everyone. Thanks a lot for inviting us. So super excited to talk to you guys today about private mobile networks. So who is Boingo? So Boingo, we're a 20-year-old technology company, and our core business is designing, deploying, and managing mobile networks. And so we're one of the first companies to deploy DAS, Wi-Fi 6, and most recently, we've done some commercial deployments around private mobile networks over CBRS. We work with a variety of different customers, different enterprises, airports, venues. We're on over 70 military bases. So we work with the military. So we're really experts in managing mobile networks. That's really what our core is.
Great. Yeah, welcome, David. And I'm glad you guys could join us here in this conversation today. Ram, I want to turn it over to you next. At VMware, we speak a lot with enterprise customers about edge digital transformation. And so I'd like you to share with the audience, some of the key considerations that enterprise IT leaders are considering, and within, private mobile networks, how does that fit into their overall IT strategy?
Thanks a lot, David. And it's always a pleasure to co-present with you, David, from Boingo. So that's an interesting question, David. I think as VMware, we have 300,000 plus enterprise customers, and we are in constant conversation with leaders in the IT organization of these enterprises. So when we speak to those leaders, one of the things that we kind of understand here consistently is they are coming up with a lot of new generational use cases, which is demanding a complete transformation of the technological choices that they are making at the edge of the network. This could either be a manufacturing facility, or it could be a industrial warehouse, or it could even be a transportation hub, right? Like an airport or something like that. So in all these things, the digital transformation that they are looking at is actually built on top of a 4-pillared pyramid, right? So the primary pillar, the first pillar in that pyramid is actually edge compute, right? What they are seeing is a set of new applications cropping up at the edge that calls for in-depth device analytics at the edge of the network. Sometimes it could be computer vision enabled, so they need GPU capability at the edge. But when they look at how these applications are developed, they see that most of the ISVs, when they develop these computer vision applications or even AI/ML applications, they are developing it using modern application development methodologies. So what you necessarily need is an edge compute platform that handles your legacy applications, but also be capable of handling new generational apps that are developed with the latest technologies. And one of the characteristic of the new modern app development is multi-cloud consumption model. You could have a analytics training module that is running in AWS. You could have your sensitive data stored in your private cloud. All of this is consumed constantly by the application at the edge. So in order to provide a consistent and resilient connectivity, the second pillar comes into the picture, which is I need to have a resilient WAN connection to these multiple cloud points of presence. And once you're bought into this premise that, hey, I'm going to have a multi-cloud edge native application, then the next pillar comes into consideration, and that is a security. Now, you don't want to have a separate security posture for each of these points of presence. Rather, you want to have a single consistent security posture. So you need some sort of a SASE kind of a capability to provide the consistent security model across all these points of presence. And then the last one is actually when you look into these applications and how they are transporting data within the edge, there you see requirements to do wireless connectivity. I mean, traditionally, most of the enterprises have been leveraging Wi-Fi technologies for transporting data wirelessly within the customer premise. But Wi-Fi has its own specific limitations. For example, it has coverage holes. It also has some performance gaps. And also another thing is, as the number of devices increase that are on a Wi-Fi network, your SLAs significantly drop, right? Like your latency drops significantly, latency increases significantly, your performance decreases significantly, and things like that. So they are looking at a 4G or a 5G, particularly a private 4G or a private 5G kind of a network being deployed at these enterprise prem that kind of augments your Wi-Fi deployment, right? Just to enable these new use cases that the enterprises are seeking. So that's in essence the digital transformation that enterprises are going after. Just to summarize, 4 pillars: a modern edge compute platform, a resilient WAN connectivity provided by SD-WAN, and then a consistent security posture provided by your SASE functionality. And the last one is having a private mobile network, which kind of augments your corporate Wi-Fi.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ram. And we talk about that LAN connectivity and how important that is to the enterprise transformation. David, Ram mentioned, traditional LAN like Wi-Fi versus PMN, and given Boingo's experience in Wi-Fi and in cellular connectivity, could you just share some details on, what's traditional LAN versus PMN, and how does that relationship, play in your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. Ram, you bring up some good points. The especially around the connectivity piece, that most of the customers that we're talking to, they're trying to solve problems. They have use cases that they want to solve, and you talked about how they want to augment their Wi-Fi network, and we find that same thing. So we find that customers, almost everyone has a Wi-Fi network, which is great for ubiquitous connectivity. So we're obviously in a lot of airports and offer people, travelers that go through, great for ubiquitous connectivity. But these are specific use cases, and you mentioned some key things. Coverage where you want it, being able to have coverage exactly where you need it, capacity and performance, being able to have, Wi-Fi is not the greatest. It doesn't really give you dedicated capacity, and then security. Those are the 3 things that we find that most customers around private mobile networks are looking for, that security, that coverage where they want it, and capacity. An example is we deployed a private mobile network over CBRS at Petco Park in San Diego for the San Diego Padres baseball team. If you've been to the park, it's a beautiful park. They've got this big outdoor space in the outfield, and they call it Gallagher Field. It used to be called Park in a Park, and it's a big area where they can hold 12,000 people. They have different concerts out there. People can set up a picnic to watch the game. And one of the things they do there is they of course sell T-shirts and food and beer and all kinds of stuff out there. And they have Padre people that walk around selling and swiping your credit card to sell you Padre dollars, so you can go buy all the different merchandise and stuff. And it's great because it's a big open field. The problem is that those devices, those point of sale devices were using Wi-Fi, and they didn't have very good Wi-Fi coverage. There's only one corner of the field. So they would all huddle in one corner, and they would tell all the customers, come over here, we'll swipe your credit card over here. Obviously that wasn't the greatest experience. And so they asked us what we could do to help them. And our expertise in Wi-Fi and DAS and private mobile network, we said, hey, we could help set up a CBRS private network here, a few nodes, and cover the entire area, grassy area. And then your POS devices that you can walk around and connect everywhere. And so that's what we did. We went and deployed it. It's worked great for them. They've been able to have their Padre people walk around, sell dollars all over the place. So they were able to generate new use cases based off of having that private mobile network. Similar, like you said, Ram, it offers them that coverage that they needed, and also it had to be a secure connection, of course, because they're using, taking people's credit cards. So.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic example, and obviously a good, bypassing maybe the congested channel, either on the, the over-the-air commercial cellular or the Wi-Fi, to have that dedicated channel and bandwidth for those applications. So, and that's a good use case within sports and entertainment. Ron, we've seen a lot of good use cases, whether it be retail, healthcare, or even in manufacturing and Industry 4.0 use cases. But overall, I think the market has been pretty slow to adopt this technology. There's really compelling use cases, but the adoption's been slow. So my question to you is, what steps are the service providers taking to, simplify that deployment and the operation of these networks?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you look at it, David, mobile networks are unlike your typical Wi-Fi network. There are a lot of moving parts. You have a RAN element, you have a packet core element, you have SIM management to address. So there are a lot of pieces that you need to bring together in order to make a functioning, efficient private mobile network. And outside of the telco service provider domain, there is very little expertise that is available in the enterprise IT community to manage and adopt a mobile network. So that is one of the key reasons why you see a slower adoption curve for private mobility, right? In fact, we are in conversations with a ski resort organization. They have a very well-defined use case to have a private mobile network, because they just cannot figure out where their shuttle buses are at any point in time, so that they can intimate to their patrons about the when the next shuttle will come to the closest bus stop, right? So these are very classic IoT use cases where there is definitely a need for private mobility, but they are hesitant to take the next step because of the lack of expertise that is surrounding it. So if you really look at how the private mobile networks are being deployed today, there are a couple of different deployment models, right? One is where enterprises does it on their own, right? It's more of a DIY model. In many cases, they can adopt the services of a system integrator to do the initial deployment. But the real problem is not day zero. The problem is always day one or day two. Once the network is operational, once you have once you face some kind of a problem, how do you troubleshoot and how do you fix it? That's where the problem comes. So the enterprise DIY approach works a lot for those enterprises which have significant expertise surrounding the mobile technology, but more and more enterprises are looking at leveraging a managed service provider like Boingo or others who have this expertise of having deployed a wireless network, a private 5G network, and they also have the necessary capabilities and tools to manage it on an ongoing basis. So that's a very important piece that I think enterprises are slowly getting used to. Now, another way to skin this cat is a fully on-prem deployment versus a full cloud-based deployment versus a hybrid deployment, right? And each one of them has its own benefits. One of the things that, at least from a VMware standpoint, that we feel that is more closer to the enterprises is a hybrid deployment, where you do the management from the cloud, but leave the RAN and the packet core completely local to the enterprise. So that way, the latency of the traffic is extremely slow, but nevertheless, you can benefit from cloud-based management. So that way, multi-site, multi-tenancy, all these kind of benefits can be recognized or realized much more easier. So those are the key things that we are seeing. The industry is coming up as a solution to address this slow adoption situation.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Really, really leveraging, wireless expertise, and then, it's kind of an enterprise-friendly platform. So it's the best of both worlds to kind of accomplish that solution. David, earlier you shared Boingo's role kind of in deploying networks, and Ram kind of highlighted the PMN deployment as a managed service. So when it comes to, an enterprise, deploying a private mobile network, can you share some of the complexities that Boingo handles for the enterprise, and what's your checklist of items when you're taking this to the market?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ram, you brought up a good point. A lot of customers, a lot of enterprises, especially their IT departments, they have expertise in, they can manage their employees and the devices. I mean, they've got a lot going on trying to, make sure that their networks are secure, their data is secure. And a lot of them might be experts at managing the data and managing the networks, but they're not, typically you don't find a lot of cellular experts in the IT departments. And so as we see these private mobile networks being deployed to solve these use cases, the expertise typically are not there. It's a lot more complicated, like you said, where you've got the RAN equipment, the core, the packet core, you have to manage SIMs. And being able to manage that is pretty new for most IT departments. And so that's where companies like Boingo can really help simplify that. We manage those systems. We can go not only design and deploy them, but we manage them, keep them up and running. And a lot of times, as we've already talked about, some of these deployments, they're mission critical use cases. So like the use case I mentioned around San Diego Padres, they've got a concert going on. It might have 10 or 12,000 people there, and they want to sell the merchandise. That concert's only there that day. If for some reason the network goes down, they can't afford to do that. They lose that concert. It's not like it can be replayed. So, we've got a 24/7 NOC. So we've got military grade NOC, so we can manage and maintain those networks, keep them up and running for you. Because again, a lot of times those use cases are mission critical. So, we really take a lot of that headache. Companies like ours take a lot of that headache away, and really our expertise in managing those networks can make it easier for the enterprises to go deploy these.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. Let the cellular experts in radio planning and propagation and network optimization really deal with those, and that way the IT group can really focus on the use case and not worry about the connectivity. Ram, I want to bring up to you, there's a lot of buzz in the industry about private 5G, but what we're seeing, especially with device availability right now, is deployment of LTE and 4G systems. So can you just share a little bit about, what a private network with 4G, and then how does it transition to 5G?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. So you're absolutely correct. So if you really look at 5G adoption in the private networks, it's relatively meager today. And that's born out of multiple factors, right? So CBRS Spectrum has been supporting 4G technologies for several years now. And the RAN vendors are just now coming up with 5G support for CBRS, right? Of course, some vendors have capabilities today, but majority of them are in process of releasing their RAN on 5G CBRS. And also, if you look at the device side of the equation, a 4G modem, it costs a fraction of what a 5G modem would cost, right? So again, there is a simple question of economies of cost there that is playing a factor in this particular decision. So, but having said that, What we, at least from a VMware, are looking at, and I'm pretty sure Boingo is also doing the same thing from their standpoint, is to ensure that the network that we deploy with our customers can support both 4G and 5G technologies simultaneously, right? So from a core standpoint, we can have a converged core that can support both 4G and 5G, and you go in with a 4G RAN today because that's what is available in the market, and it's cheaper, and it fits your budget. But then once the 5G device cost comes low, then you can upgrade those RAN with 5G stack without having to touch the core. So that's the model most of us are recommending, and I think David, you will probably acknowledge that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We like I said at the beginning, Boingo's been around for 20 years deploying mobile networks, and so we've seen the evolution from 3G to 4G to 5G, and we support everything, and working quite closely with VMware on being able to help make sure that we can deploy those 4G networks today or 5G, and that they're ready to go as the technology changes. Because we just talked about managed services. Well, one of the great things about having a managed service, working with a company like ours at Boingo, is that we can manage that technology path. You tell us what type of solutions you're looking for or problems you want to solve, and we can help find the appropriate technology. You don't need to worry about that, and we can help you, and we make sure that we're planning for the future. So as 4G goes to 5G or even 6G, we'll be ready for it.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And, a lot of the use cases that we're seeing right now, an LTE signal is more than enough. And it has all the cellular properties that you're looking for as far as reliability and connectivity to support. Well, I want to stay consistent with the timing of this Bits and Bytes series. So I want to thank you both for a great discussion. We could talk private mobile networks all day, of course, but I hope our audience was able to, gain a better understanding of what a private mobile network is, and, how can they lean towards realizing kind of the full potential of this connectivity technology. I think it's VMware's belief that the enterprise can't truly engage in what we're calling edge digital transformation if they have to spend most of their time managing and troubleshooting the connectivity. It's something that just has to work so they can focus on those, core use cases. So, and just in summary, eventually PMN may become as ubiquitous as Wi-Fi, but today, with the technology so new and the expectations so high, we think it's critical to choose the right partners that you can trust to deploy, manage, and operate this network. And the good news that we're seeing is there's excellent MSP options like Boingo that are emerging, in markets across the globe. And so taking and combining that longstanding, cellular experience with a deep enterprise know-how, choosing the right PMN partner is really going to allow the enterprise to tap into that transformative potential of private mobile networks and really reduce the operational headaches so they can focus on their transformation goals. So with that, I'll close off, and I want to thank everybody for their time today. And if you have any more, questions, feel free to visit Boingo's website or VMware's for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
everyone.